My microphone on. There you go. Okay, everybody, let's get going today. It's at 6 o'clock. We have quorum. It was debatable there for a few minutes, but we are okay. First of all, I'd like to call to order and First Nations recognition. We are very proud to be on the traditional lands of the Sooke Nation, and they've been stewards of this land for millennia. So I'd like to do a few civic things first. And the first one, of course, is a shout out to our fire department and our partners in mutual aid. Last Wednesday, as you know, there was a fire in the downtown area and a second one on Otter Point here. And our mutual aid partners, along with the Sooke Fire Department, were involved. So Otter Point, Metchosin, and East Sooke all responded. And that's a very good relationship we have with those other fire departments. In the fire downtown, 5 people were displaced and a dog perished. So that's unfortunate. But this is, as the fire chief tells me, this is was the 8th fire in 6 weeks that they've had to respond to. So very active. The second thing I'd like to do is I have a shout out again for John McCrae, the fire chief of the Sooke Otter Point Fire Department. John is retiring. On behalf of the Sooke Mayor Council and the District of Sooke, I am pleased to offer our congratulations and heartfelt thanks to the Fire Chief John McCrae as he prepares to conclude an extraordinary 31 years of service with the Otter Point Fire Department. Stepping down as Fire Chief July 3rd. John's career has been defined by dedication, leadership, and deep commitment to his community. From joining as a volunteer firefighter and serving as captain, training officer, and deputy chief, and ultimately chief, he's helped shape the department into the respected organization it is today. As elected officials, we see the impact of community leadership and relationship it builds. Through the strong partnership between our fire departments, the people of Sooke Otter Point have benefited from shared emergency response, training, and community events that have helped us make our region safer and stronger. Many residents know that Otter Point Fire Department not only is for emergency response, but also a community tradition like the annual Halloween bonfire. Under John's leadership, the department strengthened its connections to the community, earning the trust and respect of residents through the region. For that, we are deeply grateful. I'd like to congratulate Ben Patterson as he prepares to assume the role as fire chief. We look forward to continuing our strong relationship with Ben as he leads the Otter Point Fire Department into the next chapter. On behalf of the District of Sooke, I extend our sincere thanks to Chief John and for his remarkable service, and wish both John and Ben every success in years ahead. Yeah, why not? We don't generally allow that here, but in this case. And now I also have another shout out, and this is for Sarah Ferrier, and she's the crossing guard down at Casinos. You've seen her many, many times, I know. As deputy mayor, I have the privilege of recognizing and thanking Sarah on the occasion of her retirement this year for an incredible 33 years as a crossing guard at Casinos Elementary School. Although Sarah is unable to join us this evening, we wanted to publicly acknowledge her remarkable service and express our gratitude. We'll be sending her a small token of appreciation along with the recording of these remarks. For more than 3 decades, Sarah has been a familiar and trusted presence at the Casinos Elementary Crosswalk, helping generations of students and families safely cross Highway 14, which is no small feat these days. Through all kinds of weather, she greeted students and helped ensure that they arrived at their school and home again. During that time, she witnessed tremendous growth and change in our community. As Sooke grew, the traffic along Highway 14 became increasingly busy. Sarah remained a constant, providing safety, reassurance, and a friendly face for the students and families every day. While Sarah is retiring from her crossing guard duties, her commitment to the community continues through her volunteer work with the Sooke Community Association. Sarah, on behalf of council and the residents of District of Sooke, thank you for your dedicated care and service. We wish you all the best in the next chapter and offer our sincere congratulations in a remarkable 33 years. So that's good for Sarah. I think everybody's seen Sarah now. Okay, the next is approval of the agenda. So we have an agenda. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda? Okay, Pearson and St. Pierre. Any discussion to the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. Adoption of the minutes, regular council 25th of May, 2026 minutes. Are there any errors or omissions? Okay. Councillor Pearson.
Okay. So, well, thank Councillor. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Bateman, for always going through the minutes. No, I just, because you do such a good job of it, I often assume that things are other. So I want to bring our attention and is to 8.1 and the report, through Phillips Road connection project. I'm probably having a problem with my eye. So it says council discussed Phillips, and I don't think I need to go over this whole thing, but council discussed Phillips Road Connector project with staff outlining design, process, cost, funding, uncertainty. Council debated affordability, scope, priorities. It was a fulsome discussion, but one piece that was missing from this for me was the securing of the right of way. We had a robust discussion around the right of way, and I would ask the corporate officer if we could amend the minutes to include the importance of securing that right of way. And I brought my minutes with me around my questioning about the stuff. Are you going to include, because it's significant land acquisition from the CRD, and to the mayor's point earlier, they're going to be reluctant to give up this piece for future development down the road. So my question was, who's going to lead this securing? And what's that going to look like? So I just would like something in the minutes to reflect that there's a significant acquisition of right of way that still has to be secured.
Staff, is that
through the chair to the corporate officer?
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm just looking at the resolution, resolution itself 2026-214. The discussion as minuted, as the councillor notes, so debated affordability, scope and priorities, comparing the full project against a more limited, lower cost interim option to address traffic concerns, directing staff to develop cost estimates for a reduced CP5 only option with varying cross sections to inform future decisions and potential public input. I think that the line regarding the varying cross sections, the limited lower cost interim option, the affordability and scope, etc., were intended to encompass the concerns about right-of-way acquisition as well. But it certainly would be entirely proper to insert right-of-way acquisition into that line along, say, for example, after the word priorities.
Yep, I'm fine with that because. Okay. And I captured it in off of our website, so it's kind of, if it's at 137.39 or 137.29 in the meeting discussions.
Okay, could I have a motion to accept the amended minutes then? St. Pierre, Haldane. Any discussion to the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Okay, that passes. Thank you. That's unanimous. Report of the Chief Administrative Officer, number 6.
Through the chair, I have nothing to report to council this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. Next is the public question and comment period. We have 2 minutes. If anybody would like to come up and comment, state your name, roughly where you live, what area you live in, and you have 2 minutes, and it has to be to an item in the agenda. So please note the item you're talking to.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jessica Gallinger. I'm a Sooke resident and I served as a trainer and recruiter for the Wanda-Fuka-Malahat District Electoral for Elections BC in the last provincial election. I'm here regarding the proposed amendments to sign regulation bylaw number 480. I submitted a letter to your agenda packages and I urge you to look at those details as you debate tonight. Right now, a large campaign sign is up by the highway. Because our bylaws lack a start date, candidates can legally clutter Sooke for 5 months. It is completely illogical to strictly enforce a 72-hour cleanup window after the election to prevent a nuisance, while forcing residents to look at campaign clutter for 5 months before it. Our chief election officer confirmed in writing that there are 0 spending caps active right now. This unregulated pre-campaign period lets wealthy campaigns buy early dominance. Neighbors like Saanich, View Royal, and Victoria address this by restricting signs to a standard 30-day window. Sooke must do the same. Staff proposed completely banning signs on municipal lands or district lands. 20% of Sooke households rent. Tenants do not own land. Banning public signs forces campaigns onto private real estate, corporate storefronts, and developer-owned buildings. This restriction alters who candidates appeal to, and it gives an unfair visual monopoly to major landowners and developers while making local working families invisible. Please focus this update on closing the timeline gap with a fair 30-day start date and keep public spaces open as a level playing field. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? State your name, which we know, but also what you're speaking to tonight.
Got too many on here too. I'm speaking to all of the things on here. Ellen Lors, I'm talking, I wonder with this train to Sooke, from Sooke to Langford that is proposed with UBCM, why we're even bothering with trying to put in another road that we can't afford. And we can't even afford to fix the potholes that we already have. So I don't know why we want to put another road in. There's more potholes in Sooke than roads. So no to the bypass. And improve the right-hand turns off of Phillips, Charters, and Church and put a center lane down the highway and put it on the province. And if you want to do anything at the UBCM, remove bills 44 and 46 because we don't have the infrastructure to support them. We should have more modular home parks because that's affordable and attainable, or prefab homes. There's no such thing as building affordable housing. So the affordable housing amenities that you're asking for, when you have $750,000 in there now, that might build 1.5 houses. So I don't care how much money you collect, you're not going to be able to have attainable housing for people. What you need to have is an attainable way to afford housing because property is expensive too. And what was the cost of the urban housing report? And also, I think it's ridiculous, this banning of colors of the sign bylaw for elections. What's the difference of the colors of signs? That makes no sense. If it's any of the district colors, who cares? It doesn't matter as long as it doesn't have a district logo in it. And also the letter from Saanich with the local climate action committee, no more funds coming from Climate Action Committee. How does this affect our
Ms.
OCP?
Lewis, your time is up. I'll ask.
I know.
I'll ask you back for another 2 minutes once I have asked other people if they want.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to comment? Okay. Again, state your name and what article you're speaking to, please.
Good evening, Acting Mayor Beddoes. Thank you for having us tonight. I am speaking to item 10.3. My name is Malcolm McNaughton. I'm here on behalf of the Sooke Builders Association. I just have, there was a letter that was submitted from the Sooke Builders Association today that I hope you all take a chance to read. It has some concerns in there. I would just like to point out a couple of things that I think are that you should consider when debating this and looking at what you do with it. First of all, your amenity charge is significantly higher than the general amenity charge in the city of Victoria. The city of Victoria charges $1,394 a unit for high density units. You're expecting Sooke to pay $3,000. Significantly different. Additionally, I would like to say that this is a disincentive for people to build multifamily in your town center. One of the major tenets of the new OCP is to build up the town center and to focus on multifamily development. This does the exact opposite. If a multifamily parcel is, say, $30,000 in the raw to buy, this is a 10% charge on that. That's significant. And so the economics that were provided, I think, by your consultant are very flawed. When I look at this, and I'm currently doing multifamily, I don't see how we could actually do more of it because there's not more money being made in multifamily, which is what your consultant has said. And so therefore it can take a higher charge. If that was the case, you'd be inundated with projects being built. You're not. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Is there any other first-time speakers? Seeing none, I'll ask for second-time speakers.
Just to add that the previous speaker, adding $3,000 to the cost of a building is certainly not helping with affordable housing. It doesn't make any sense for that unit to be sold. Now you have to add another $3,000 and the administration around it all. I mean, the more rules you make, the more it costs. And the rules, even for the sign bylaw, how much time was spent on that with staff time and time in here? I think we have to be a little more common sense. Thank you.
Okay, believe we have one more speaker, so go ahead. Again, state your name and where you're from and what article are you speaking to or what item on the agenda?
Susan Belford, and I'm speaking to the Affordable Housing and Amenity
Okay.
Fund. I forget which number. It seems to me that when I think about this particular issue, I think about the many Sooke residents that live in unsuitable housing or no housing. And I think that as long as we keep wrangling over how to ensure there is housing that people can afford to live in and stay in Sooke for long enough to raise their kids and build a life, the harder it's going to be going forward. This policy is certainly not perfect, but I would really support it being approved. There is ample space for assessing it as it goes by, modifying it at the 1 year mark, and then every 2 years. So I think this could be a good basis for moving forward. It's certainly not the only thing we have to do to ensure that there is truly affordable housing for people. And that means people paying 30 to 40% of their income for their housing, whether they're renting or purchasing, rather than 50, 60, 70, 75%. Thank you.
I'll just ask one more time. Does anybody else wish to speak? If not, I will carry on with the agenda. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. Next is consent agenda, that the following items on the consent agenda be adopted by consent. And that's 8.3 correspondence and 8.2 correspondence, 8.3 reported to Chief Administration Officer. Does anybody want to move that? St. Pierre? And you can pull it too. I'll get a seconder on it, then you can pull it. Okay, Councillor Pearson,
Okay,
what would you like to pull?
okay. 18 and 23 is the CRD annual report. I received that for information. Number 38, I have a question mark beside number 38 because that's a sponsorship for the Sooke Salmon and Barbecue, and I think we may be dealing with that later on.
It is on the agenda,
So
yes.
there's no need, the 38 and 36 be back on proposed sign bylaw. And and 39, sorry.
Okay, so those would be pulled from correspondence,
Yes,
correct? Anybody else have to pull anything? So I'll go to Councillor Bateman first.
Yeah, I'd like to pull 11K, the gathering place costs from Nikki Logan's of the Sooke Region Communities Health Network.
Okay, and Councillor Haldane, I think you had your hand up.
Yes, that was one of mine, and the other one is 9.I, the referendum costs.
Okay, so those will be pulled and be on the next agenda. So thank you, everybody. So if I get a motion to pass the rest of it. I think we have the motion, don't we? So I just need a vote on it. All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. All right, next order of business is reports, 9.1 UBCM Annual Convention. And so over to staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report appeared at the last meeting of council and resulted in some, so at this point we have two motions which are looking to go to UBCM and the ministerial meetings that have been requested. This report is still on this agenda purely to give council a chance to add to that if they've had any further thoughts, or alternatively to receive for information if you would not like to do anything further at this time.
Okay, is there any desire to add more things to the UBCM convention? And I think we have a list there of who we're resting. And so yes, Councillor Pearson,
Yes, I'd like to add the Minister of the Environment.
Minister of Environment.
Minister of Environment, yes.
Staff, you have that? Okay, I don't need a motion for that. That's just for information. So I guess.
Can I,
Go ahead,
yeah,
Councillor.
so last, 2 weeks ago, we did discuss at some length the manufactured home resolution. However, in Councillor St. Pierre's absence, we didn't get to dig into your thinking around the food security piece. And so I was wondering whether you'd like to share any of that tonight, if that's appropriate at this time, or?
No, I think we have to deal with the business that's in front of us. If he
Okay.
if he wants to draw that up to new business, then I don't have a problem with that. But at this particular time, we're just following, endorse the following resolutions, which we have already done, and instruct staff to seek the meetings, which you've already done.
I could do that in Council Berber reports if you like.
Yeah, that'd be fine. We're okay with that.
I do have one question for staff, and that is
Go
that.
ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
That the UBCM resolution guidelines very clearly state a supplementary memo needs to be attached to any resolution. Otherwise, without this background information, resolutions will not be submitted. So I'm just curious as to how you're proceeding with that. Mr. Lois.
Through your worship to the councillor, so the deadline for resolutions is June 15th, 2026. The two resolutions which have been provided, which have been endorsed by council to date, that being one on manufactured homes and one on food waste, they will be submitted in accordance with those, with the supporting documentation, just laying out the debates which have been had around this table.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think that's all we have to do with 9.1. So we'll go on to 9.2, housing amenity contribution. Staff report, please. Did I miss one? I thought we were doing the sewers there for a minute and it threw me.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship, members of council, and thank you, Your Worship, members of council, and members of the public. This is a overview of the report on the agenda in relation to housing amenity contribution policy. Just as a background, this particular policy has been down a fairly lengthy road. But just to provide some background to affordable housing policy and affordable housing generally in Sooke over the last 20 years or so. Back in 2006, due to the fact that housing prices basically doubled over a 5-year period in the early 2000s, there was a great deal of concern around affordable housing, and as a result, the Affordable Housing Reserve Fund bylaw was adopted. And in 2007, an affordable housing and social housing policy was adopted. In 2011, the past OCP bylaw 400 had a section on housing and encouraged the adoption of a housing amenity contribution policy. And of course, our new OCP adopted in 2025, December of 2025, also speaks directly to adopting an affordable housing policy. Back in December 17th, 2024, we had some consultants do some pro formas of various styles of housing. They actually looked at specific lots within the district of Sooke, a 5-acre parcel for single-family homes and a number of other lots for different styles of housing, like mixed use with commercial on the ground floor and residential above, just a straight 6-story wood frame apartment building. So they did townhouses as well. So they did individual performance for exact lots in the district of Sooke. And as part of this pro forma, they identified what the increased land value is. And so that helped to create the basis of the housing policy. In June 2025, June 3rd, 2025, I brought a report to the Land Use and Development Committee. That recommendation went to the June 23rd, 2025 regular meeting of council. And there was a recommendation that directed staff to get input on the content of the draft housing amenity policy and do some get some public input from stakeholders in the community on the policy. In August, I presented the draft policy to the Sooke Builders Association representatives, and they provided formal feedback to the district on September 4th. And then on October 6th, I provided a response to their questions and concerns. And on October 20th, they sent a follow-up email sort of re-emphasizing the main concerns that they have. So that's where we are today. And I used that. So I used the June 3rd Land Use and Development Committee report as the basis of this report, and then added the input that I received in discussions with the stakeholders in the community. So just to give people a sense of the tools that municipalities have at their disposal for amenities and various charges or various capital and cultural type amenities. There are DCCs, such as development cost charges, and amenity cost charges. The development cost charges are for the hard capital projects, the sewer, the water, the roads, those types of things, to ensure that there is money in a reserve fund in order to pay for large sewer treatment plant upgrades or large road redevelopments. Then the amenity cost charges, which is a new charge that municipalities are able to charge, is more for social, cultural, heritage, recreational, or environmental benefits. That amenity cost charge cannot be used for affordable housing. So the tool that can be used for affordable housing is either density bonusing, which is a mechanism in the zoning bylaw that allows the municipality to sort of trade off additional density for a developer to be able to build more on a site if they in turn either provide funds or actual units of affordable housing within their development. And then the other tool is what we call community amenity charges, as opposed to amenity cost charges. So the community amenity charges are charges that the municipality can ask for through the rezoning process. And this is a charge that can go towards affordable housing. So later on, when I talk about comparing amenity charges that neighboring communities have, it's a combination of these charges that I'm looking at. So there's two kinds of ways of dealing with for like getting affordable housing. One is to do what's called in-kind type of tool. And that is where you actually get the developer to provide affordable housing within a development that they're already doing. So if they're building an apartment building, that maybe 10% or a certain percentage of that building is actually dedicated to affordable housing or rental housing. The difficulty with the in-kind approach, and sorry, it's also used in single family developments where you could maybe build, the developer would build a certain percentage of the single family homes on smaller lots, maybe smaller homes to make them more affordable. So in this instance, the in-kind approach, they're building the actual housing. Whereas in the cash in lieu, they're providing a certain amount of funds towards affordable housing on a per unit basis. So the in-kind approach is better in terms of the fact that you're actually getting affordable housing through that mechanism. Whereas in the cash in lieu, you're just collecting money and no affordable housing is necessarily being created. But in the in-kind aspect of it or tool, there's a lot of administrative costs, legal costs, and time for staff because you have to put legal agreements in place in order to ensure that these affordable housing units that are included in a development will stay that way for however many years, that you have a list of potential candidates who could go into this housing. You have to decide how you're going to shortlist this list, how you're going to decide who goes in, how long they can go in, how new people are chosen. Anyway, it's a very time-consuming process for staff to administer these units and make sure that it's done fairly. The benefit of the cash in lieu is that you have funds that are put into a reserve fund, and that money then could be used to buy land, to partner with groups like Habitat for Humanity, to subsidize developments in the future. So it's a lot more flexible tool that can be used in any number of creative ways to encourage affordable housing to happen in the community. This is less administrative, less time consuming, and less costly to administer. So it's this cash in lieu approach that we've taken in the policy. So the policy itself is to provide cash in lieu contributions towards affordable housing in a transparent, efficient, balanced, and predictable process. So there's two approaches that are being recommended in this policy. The first approach is for large developments of over 100 units. We don't have many of those in Sooke, as you can imagine. I think we only have one on the books right now. That would be the Aranan development on the west side of Sooke. So this is an approach that provides more flexibility in terms of the negotiations. But the basis of the negotiations for these larger developments is to take a look at, do an assessment of what the value of the land would be before the rezoning application happens and after the rezoning has gone through. So what we're suggesting is that the amount of money the developer would pay towards affordable housing would be 50% of the increased value of the land from pre-zoning to post-zoning. In the approach, so that's for the large developments. Now, there's no requirement for you to do that assessment and go through that process. If staff and the developer want to negotiate something outside of that, that's certainly possible, but that's kind of the basis upon which that negotiation would happen. For the approach B, that's for the smaller developments from 5 units to 99 units. We have a straight fee per housing type. So on the next slide here, you see the fees that we've come up with. So it's 3,000 for apartment units, 3,000 per mixed use developments, 3,000 for townhouses, 4,000 for single detached subdivisions, and 1,000 for purpose-built rental. So after presenting this draft policy to the Sooke Builders Association and going back and forth a bit, there were sort of 6 or 7 sort of core concerns that the Sooke Builders Association had with this policy. They were concerned about the reliance on the land lift as the basis for the fees. But I can say that this is an approach that a number of municipalities on the South Island do use as a basis for this affordable housing payments. This is a tool in which there's no exact science to this. When you do these performas, there are a lot of variables involved. There's the cost of the carrying costs of the loans that the developer is taking. How long it takes to get processed by the municipality impacts the costs. How much they ultimately sell the product for at the end of the day. Is it 5% above or below what they were expecting? Cost of materials, cost of employees. So there's a lot of variables that go into this, but I felt it was important that we have a Sooke-based indication of why we would charge the charges we are. I've taken the spread in the single family sort of land lift. 50% of the land lift was between $2,000 and $12,000 per unit. I chose 4,000, which was on the low end of the scale of that range. There's no exact, again, science to it, and certainly council can choose another fund, more or less. And then for the apartment units, there were similar ranges, but as was noted earlier, we want to charge less for the apartments as we want to encourage that style of development. I can say that informally, for the last 2 years that I've been here, we have been charging $3,000 per unit, both for single family and multifamily. So this is definitely in line with what we've already been charging, slightly more for the single family, but the same for the multifamily. So we are in line with what we've been doing thus far. There was also a concern from the Sooke Builders Association of a lack of transparency in the fee determination. And I think I've sort of explained how we came to those conclusions. They were concerned that, we've had this reserve fund policy in place for 20 years and nothing's been used of those funds for affordable housing, which is a fair comment. But interestingly enough, we didn't actually collect our first affordable housing funds for that reserve fund until 2018. And it's only been in the last 3 years that we've actually really started to collect on a consistent basis. So we presently have $750,000 in that reserve fund, but the majority of that has been in the last, say, 3 years that's been collected. So certainly it's not enough money at this stage in the game to build a large apartment building, but it is funds that can go towards purchasing land, providing subsidies to nonprofits, partnering, or any other number of ways in which we can try and encourage that type of development. There was concern from the Sooke Builders Association around a cumulative financial burden, and certainly the development community has been experiencing a lot of increased costs over the last few years. There's been changes to the building code that has had much more onerous codes in terms of earthquake preparedness, so foundations and things. So that has really increased the costs of development. There have been increased interest rates in the last few years. There's been anyway, a number of things that have sort of compounded on the costs of development. And so it's a fair comment that this is another, piling on of costs to the development community. There was a concern that we were out of line with our surrounding municipalities. And in looking at, say, Colwood and Langford, the combination of their amenity contribution, charge contribution, and their community amenity contribution or affordable housing contributions, they have $7,000 and $9,000 as the total that they charge. Now we're only recommending at this point to charge for affordable housing, and we're charging $4,000. So it's about half of what developers are paying in Langford and Colwood. And there are no plans that I'm aware of or in any near future that we're looking to add any amenity contribution charges to the list of things we're charging. At this point, it's just an affordable housing. So at this point, we're charging certainly less than what the neighbors are charging. And then there was a concern about the that we use this as we do a kind of pilot project, and we see how it impacts things, and then tweak it as time goes on. And so I did change the policy to have a 1-year review period, so that after the first year, after the date of the policy being adopted, that we would do a review and determine how it's impacting the community. We could have further feedback from the Sooke Builders Association and determine whether we needed to raise or lower the fees accordingly. So those were the main concerns from the Sooke Builders Association, and sort of how I explain that. So the Sooke Builders Association did provide in their last email a series of figures that they're recommending. So they've suggested that single family detached should be $2,500 per unit. Townhouses should be $1,200 per unit, and condominium apartments should be $750 per unit. These are just figures they provided. I don't know if there's any pro formas that go in behind these numbers, but that was just the numbers they provided as being what they're recommending. There are a number of exemptions from this policy. If you're a nonprofit, you're building nonprofit rental units, you're exempt from these fees. If you're purpose-built rental projects with 50-year or more life of the building, then you're exempt. Projects with 4 units or fewer are exempt from this fee, and non-residential development. So this is only at the time of rezoning, of a residential rezoning, that these fees would be collected. And the way we've been doing it up to this point is that when the development comes in front of council for the first time, there's a recommendation that a covenant be put in place that addresses the affordable housing contributions, and that covenant is in place before the zoning bylaw gets adopted. So that's my presentation on the affordable housing policy that's attached to the report. happy to answer any questions from council.
Before we go on to questions, I just want to make a clarification. I have two agendas here. The one on the screen is 10.3 housing amenities, and the one in front of me is 9.2. So if there's some confusion there, I will use the, well, we'll figure it out as we go along, just so you're aware of that. Okay, is there any questions for staff? Who's first? Councillor Haldane.
Yeah, I've got a couple. So when you say there's 4 units or less, so a single family subdivision doesn't require to pay amenity charges?
A development, rezoning application that has less than 5 units, so 4 or less, would not have to pay amenity, like housing amenity contributions.
So if somebody's subdividing one lot off of their property, they don't have to pay.
They wouldn't have, this is, sorry, through the chair.
Go ahead.
This is only at rezoning. So if you're just coming in for a building permit or even a subdivision of one lot, this is not a fee that is paid because it's only at the time of rezoning the property. And I think the theory behind it is that when a developer rezones a property from, say, single family to being able to do multifamily, that property becomes valued higher. And so you're taking a portion of that increased value of the property through the rezoning process as the affordable housing contribution. So if you're not doing a rezoning, then you're not paying.
Well, all single family homes that want to take a lot off have to rezone. So if they do that, do they pay $4,000? Or do they get exempt because it's only one lot that they're going to be taking off?
So through your worship, not all lots need to rezone. If you are already part of a let's say there's a 50 lot subdivision and that's already been rezoned and already been subdivided, and you're just building a house on one of those lots, then.
Well, I understand that.
Yep.
I'm asking about somebody who owns a piece of property with a house on it. They want to subdivide off one piece for their kid. I've done it dozens of times. You have to rezone to a small lot residential zone, so you're in the sewer specified area and so on. And that rezoning triggers fees.
Right.
It triggers more than $20,000 in DCCs. Does it trigger a $4,000 fee?
Your worship, through you, that would not trigger this amenity charge because
Even
it
if
has to
it's-
be more than 4 units. So if it's just one lot through the rezoning process, then it's not charged.
So the answer is no.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. You have 2 questions, did you not, Councillor Haldane?
Yeah, well, and to the other point, the gentleman that came up from the Builders Association, and I looked up, so Victoria charges $33.66 for a single family and $1,394 for a multi. And the difference here is that an average lot value in Victoria is $823,000, where the average lot price in Sooke is $378,000. So if you're saying it's based on, some lift or whatever, the Sooke lots are substantial. They're a third of the price of a Victoria lot. So shouldn't we be a third of the price of the amenity charge? I mean, shouldn't there be some sort of a discount because we live in Sooke and the property's not worth anywhere near what it is in Victoria? And I guess at this point, I understand what he's talking about because they're charging $3,366 for the same thing we want to charge $4,000, and their lot's worth $500,000 more.
I guess I need a little clarity here too, but you're mentioning in Langford and Colwood, which would be similar pricing lots, I guess. There is much more than ours. Is that correct?
So through your worship to the councillor, so Colwood and Langford have a lower affordable housing charge. I think Langford's is $1,000.
Yeah.
Colwood's is a couple of $1,000. But when you combine that with their other amenity charges for social, heritage, recreational, other fees that they charge, their total amenity charges are $7,000 and $9,000 respectively. So we don't charge any of those other amenity charges. We are only talking about charging for affordable housing. So the only fee we're going to be charging is $4,000 in comparison to Colwood and Langford's $7,000 and $9,000 charge.
Okay, I got
Okay,
another question.
no, I'm gonna go to another council and I'll come back to you, please.
Okay.
Anybody else? Right. So
Thank you for that presentation. I have a few things. Now, you spoke with the Sooke Builders Association. Now, in terms of approach number one, I'm not sure, and maybe Councillor Haldane can confirm for me, Royop, West Urban, Aragon, and Farrell Estates, are they members of the Sooke Builders Association?
I don't know.
What's the relevance of that?
Well, the relevance is that this is a group of developers who have plans to develop 100+ lots in our community. And they might well have an interest in voicing opinions around approach number one.
Okay.
That's my thinking there. So you approached Habitat for Humanity to get some input, but you did not approach these other developers. Is that correct?
That's correct, but sorry, through your
Go ahead.
worship, any developer who comes forward, even at a pre-application stage, we have been telling them that our informal policy is $3,000 a unit. So they're all aware of what our unofficial policy or is, and so that's won't be a surprise to anybody. But no, I didn't specifically go to them and ask their input.
So, okay, thank you. Now, approach number one is quite sophisticated, complicated, usually used largely in much larger communities, such as I think you've cited Vancouver, Saanich, Nanaimo. So do you see that as a challenge in that our local building developing community is very much comfortable with a cash in lieu approach?
Through your worship, this is still a cash in lieu approach. It's just providing a mechanism to come up with that fee.
Right.
That there are people you can hire to do the appraisal for the land pre-zoning versus post-zoning going through. And if in that assessment it comes out to be $2,000 a unit,
right,
well, that's good on the developer for and it's not to say that you have to go through that assessment process. I mean, you could, and we, as you know, with Aranan development, we did our own negotiation with the developer that was kind of a win-win for both parties, in the sense of we got more money up front and they paid less long-term. And so it was, these negotiations can still happen, but if you come to a stalemate and you can't get to a point where you're both satisfied with what's being asked of the developer, then you can fall back on this assessment approach. And the same goes for the smaller developers. And when I say smaller, like if you're doing 98 units, that's still a big development. But if you think that the $4,000 per unit is too much money, you can do the assessment, get the appraisal, and figure out what the land lift is. And if it comes out to be less, then we would charge you less. This is just like, you don't have to go through that assessment process, but if you want to challenge it, we're giving you the basis upon which to challenge it.
Right.
So there's an option. The developer can do either or.
Right.
Sometimes to go the long way might be expensive to do. And so there's an option of just doing a flat rate.
Right.
Okay, understood. Go ahead.
Chair, can I have one more question?
Sure.
I'm deeply curious about this. Now, this policy of ours, that the current policy, affordable housing and social housing policy of 2007, talked about in kind, which, as you explained, is deeply challenging to administer, and cash in lieu. However, as you've just stated, that our first cash in lieu was received in 2018, 12 years later, after adoption of this policy. And I checked the census numbers, and what were there, something like 2,500 homes were built in Sooke over that period. From 2006, 2018, this reserve fund theoretically, just on a guesstimate of $1,000 cash in lieu per unit, should be up at 2.5 million. So I'm concerned. I'm embarrassed that I didn't know this, since we were talking cash in lieu back in 2019. And I'm just curious, why were we not charging cash in lieu from the get-go? I know this is before your time, Mr. Marsh.
I don't know if we can even answer the question, but I'll give you the opportunity.
Your worship, through you to the counselor. Yeah, I don't have an explanation for you. But, you know, one of the concerns from the Sooke Builders Association sort of early on my time here was that due to the turnover of staff, that they were getting all over the map, $10,000 a unit, a percentage, a covenant, a this, a that, and they never really knew exactly what they were getting themselves into. And so they wanted some certainty and some, you know, of understanding of like, and consistency that this is what I will be charged when I come forward with my rezoning application. And so I think it could be a combination of, you know, one administration putting the bylaws and policy in place and the next one carrying on with other priorities of the day. And then and to be fair, that was a real high watermark in affordable housing, in the sense that like in 5 years, they literally, the average price of a single family home doubled. Like that's huge. And so, and then of course we've, in the last 5-10 years, you know, experienced those increases again. And I think it's just come to the forefront again, and it's just brought it back to a tool that people want to use. So I don't have an exact explanation, but that may be part of it.
I don't think
you
you're
for
even
that.
qualified to give it because you weren't here. So I'm now going to go to Councillor St. Pierre. Then I'll go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. The first thing I'd like to do is just note that 2018 was actually when a new council took place. And I remember some of those discussions very clearly because we were astonished that the numbers were all over the place and that they didn't seem to be representing 10% of anything in particular. And they didn't seem to relate to 10% of anything we could identify. And so what I'd like, first of all, is to thank you very much for finally giving us some actual tangible stuff that could be used. Because we've been waiting, I believe, since 2018, when this first came up, for this policy to actually clarify, obviously for the development community first and foremost, because they don't need to be jerked around by different answers, but also for council who didn't know and was trying to figure it out. So thanks for getting there. It took a while, but we're here now. That's good. One other thing I'd just like to note very quickly is that some money has been used, because that also 2018, it was used for the first housing needs assessment. We pulled that money from the Affordable Housing Fund. So it was used initially for that. That money has been used at least once before for its intended purpose. Okay, so the question that I do have though is, actually, I'm going to go back to some of the earlier work. 5.3 on page 18, we have alternative development standards as one of the things that we were looking at on a regional level and at a local level. Can we even have alternative development standards? Because I don't think we've actually done that sort of thing. Councillor Paul Dane has asked for that sort of thing regularly, and I think it makes sense, but can we do it?
Is that in the report?
Yeah, it was in the report.
Okay, I missed it. Go ahead.
So, through your worship to the councillor, there are ways in which municipalities can try and ease the pain of, you know, somebody paying to develop a property. As you know, we have design standards for streets, right?
Mhm.
And so when somebody has to do frontage improvements as part of their development application or their building permit, those are very expensive costs. Now, as you know, municipalities can waive those street frontage costs. And so I guess you could call that an alternative development standard, that you're exempting them from having to pay those costs because they're providing affordable housing and you're encouraging them to do so.
Okay, so we're not talking about the building code or anything like that. We're talking about, okay, sorry. I just, how can we change that? Is that
Okay.
provincial and federal? Or
Did you get your question answered?
That answers that. I have another question about covenants. Up until now, we've been, as I understand, using covenants to basically make sure that the money became available. Do we have a better system at this point? Because I always thought that was fairly onerous for everyone involved to actually have to set up legal covenants so that this contribution could be provided. Certainly it increases the costs and the difficulty for the developer. So do we have a better system potentially with this new policy?
Through your worship to the councillor, we pretty much every rezoning application I've dealt with since I've been here has had a covenant associated with it. It's just because there's a lot of securities and things that are asked for through the rezoning process, and the only way to ensure that they are followed through with is to do it in a covenant. And so it's no more onerous to add a line in the covenant to say that so much should be provided for affordable housing. So I don't see it as a big added expense. And the difficulty is that if somebody comes in for a rezoning, let's just say they're the Roy-Op site, and they say, we're gonna have 70,000 square feet of commercial, and we're gonna have 200 units of homes, right? So the rezoning goes through, and as you know, once a rezoning goes through, they can do anything that that zone allows. So they don't even have to build any affordable housing or any housing. They could say they are in the application process, but that's just one of the uses permitted in that zone. So, or they could build twice as much as they said in their proposal. So how do you charge $3,000 per door if it could be 100 or it could be 400? So what you do is you say in the covenant that at the time of building permit or development permit, or when you're nailing down exactly how many doors there's going to be, that's when they get charged the affordable housing contribution.
Okay, I think I was actually remembering one case where it was actually a single lot that was being split off. And I think the contribution was like 1,800 and the cost of setting up a covenant was 1,200. And that was the only thing in the covenant. And I was like, what? But obviously that's not the case because that's under 5 units.
Right.
And we're looking at, okay, that makes sense.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you very much. Councillor Pearson, you're up next.
Thank you. Through the chair. I got a couple of questions here. So the before and after zoning land lift, you've got a number at 50%, I think is like you said. So how does that translate on average? Have we got a performance that says that 50% lift is going to plus or minus $3,000 a door? Is that kind of, have we done the background work on that? I guess this is my first question.
Through your worship to the councillor, the performers provide a range, and they say, if all goes well, you'd make $12,000 per door profit on the land lift. If the municipality takes an extra year to process the application and you sell the property for 2% less than you originally thought, and it's $2,000, right? And this obviously can vary widely either end, and it depends on the market of the day and all of those things, right? But there was a range for the single family of $2,000 to $12,000 depending on those variables, and so I chose $4,000 being kind of the lower end of that. So that's based on a 5-acre property, of the day, with all the costs incurred in and the thing is if, that one of the concerns from the Sooke Builders Association, well, what if you do add these charges, or what if the market changes significantly, or, that this is, it means that we're paying unnecessarily or too much. Well, again, you can always redo these calculations if you feel it's too much. And we have, in the policy said that we would review it after a year. So there is kind of a fail-safe to it in that sense.
Okay. And my second question is, as you're explaining it, and I'm following the bouncing ball there. for me is, I personally would like to see the cost charges apples to apples across municipalities. I think that takes some of the guesswork out, but it also unties the hands of future councils to start unraveling the ACCs and the CCCs on top of the DCCs, right? So that if Langford and Colwood, and we don't have to do what they do, but if they're charging $1,000 a door and we're charging $4,000 a door on the spot, but because they're charging more on their ACCs, I would like to see that we have some flexibility in our ACCs and our CCCs going forward to say, okay, well, now we'd like to build some sidewalks. It's another cost charge that we could look at. To me, it feels more intuitive to sort of keep them apples to apples across municipalities, because builders don't just build in Sooke, they build in Langford, they build in Colwood, they build in Sydney. So it feels more intuitive to me to look at, and I'll wait for my other councillors to do that. So nonprofits, you said that nonprofits are exempt. That's right on the top of there. So what about, we have a nonprofit getting built right now, and they're going to be charging market rental for some of that, right? So are we going to take layers of floors apart and say that those, because market rent to me is where what the threshold is. If they're building not for profit, they go below market value, and some of the units are, but how do you break that out? Or do you think about breaking that out? I guess maybe that's my question.
So through your worship to the councillor, the Lot A development has a percentage of it that is below market value, so affordable. And it is, and I don't know the exact percentage, but it meets the BC Build's qualification for all the grants and subsidies that are being provided. So I'd have to see how that all gets defined in terms of our policy, but if not entirely, it would at least be partially, exempt from that fee. Yeah.
Okay, and you've answered that. It's like when I hear these words not for profit, and then you look at the salaries of the people that are working there.
Yeah.
Right, then it doesn't add up to me. So as long as there's a thought process around maybe breaking, so it may be more complicated and more work for somebody like in staff, but it's something that twigged in my explanation. I do have a couple more questions, but
You go to Councillor Haldane, he's there, he's been waiting patiently, and then I'll come back to you, Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, I guess to add more onto even what Councillor Pearson's saying, I mean, the difference here is you've got private sector that has to pay taxes on every lot they have. They have to do all these fees, all the stuff that are for profit, but they've got to go through a litany of things in order to be able to be successful. These so-called not-for-profits, they're getting $3 million worth of property from us for nothing, for zero. So the 20% of below market rent they're going to get, that I would think the $3 million in property would be enough to at least cover that. They should be paying the full amount. If every other property developer is expected to pay that amount, they should be expected as well. And if you look up what nonprofits do, they usually provide all below market rent. And these guys are only providing 20% of it below market. So they should be paying full fees. They're getting a sweet deal from us. So we should be able to get something back from them, or recoup some of the money that they're going to get from this full market price they're going to charge on 80% of the units that they're going to have there, plus full market on all of the commercial down the bottom, including the medical center. And
I think that's a question for another day. We're dealing with the
yeah,
housing.
could be, but
I understand what you're saying.
We've got some other stuff to talk about.
Go ahead.
I'd like to keep going. So, the other thing you got to take into consideration when you're talking about single family lots is that you look at Sun River, you look at up there on the one just across off Otter Point Road stuff. They might put those lots in, and they might pay all the fees. And if you look at what fees are, they're 20,000, little over 20,000 for DCCs, 6,200 for water, 15,000 for sewer, 15 for storm. You're at $56,000 for one lot. Then you add on the 4,000, you're at $60,000 a lot. So that transfers over to the cost of whoever's buying it. And lots in Sooke are only $378. But you got to take into account that these lots sit for a number of years as well. They don't sell all of them today. And $2,100 is the tax on a single family lot that's not being used. So if these guys sit on it, and Sun River's a 20-year build out, if you sit on those lots for 5 years, that's $10,000 more. So all these fees and stuff added on, they got to recoup costs. Plus they're paying 12-14% on the money borrowed and so on. You keep acting like these guys here, it's all profit, profit, profit. I mean, it's whatever they can try and recoup out of their investments. And that's what we haven't looked into at this point. And I'd like to see more of a robust discussion before we decide to add $4,000 when Victoria's charging $36,00 on a lot that they have that's worth 800 and something, and ours are worth 300 and something thousand. So I think it's too much. That's just me because I'm putting all the numbers together. The only thing that I do like is that it's not applying to the smaller guy trying to subdivide off for his kid. And the sad part about that is if you want to use and apply Bill 444 on your single family lot, now stuff applies again. You have to do street improvements, which the last one I looked at for a guy was $107,000 for street improvements on turning a single family home into a single family home into a duplex. So nobody's going to be able to afford to do these things. And these bills were supposed to be about making stuff more affordable. This doesn't make stuff more affordable. And more importantly, the people that deserve this amenity housing money, young families, seniors, they're not going to get any of it. It's going to all go to subsidize people, and we're going to have more buildings like we do down there.
Sorry.
So
what-
that's where we're going to run into a problem. And
I guess I'm having a little bit of confusion here is exactly, are you talking about Bill 44 or are we dealing with the amenities here?
well, you understand what Bill 440 is.
Yes, I do. I'm well aware. of
It
Bill-
all applies to this.
Well, I understand, but I'm
If-
not
if
here.
you don't understand it,
Excuse me.
then that's
the
okay.
Chair, I'm the chair and I don't want to
Butting
get,
in every time I'm trying to talk about
Just
something.
a
doesn't
sec,
give
the
you the
chair-
right as the chair.
excuse me, I'm going to use my authority as the chair. I'm thinking you're off topic and I'd like you to stick to the amenities thing that's before you. This
It
is
is
the
a
one.
point, okay.
I don't want to talk about.
Because you
Bill
don't
44.
understand it doesn't mean it isn't a point, okay?
Well, I understand your point, but I'd like to get through the evening without going into a big thing about Bill 44. So if we stick it to what we have here, you're saying basically you don't agree with the $4,000, that's fine. You
Well,
have
I
that-
don't agree with how we got there. That's
Yeah,
what
I
I don't agree
understand.
with.
And
Do
you
you
made that
understand?
point.
Do you?
Point of order.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would just like to note that we don't have a motion on the floor, and ipso facto, should be a time for questions.
Yeah.
And we'll get to comments in due course.
That's, okay, it was going there, but okay. Do you have any more questions for
No,
staff?
that's it for now.
I'm going, no sec, excuse me, I'm going to Councillor Pearson. Do you have a question for staff?
Oh, so so yeah, through the chair, thank you. South Vancouver Island, you said there's quite a few municipalities that do the land let. And who are those ones that are doing that land?
Victoria, Saanich, Nanaimo. Those are the ones that I'm aware of.
And, oh. Question for clarification in the opening part, through the chair to Director of Planning. You said the DCCs said something about the sewer. I wrote a question, I'm a question mark. So the DCC sewer reserve fund is separate, correct, right? Anything that goes there, that's a portion of the DCCs. Isn't that how I remember that? So that is that a fixed amount or is it a percentage of DCCs?
So the way development cost charges work is that you either pay on a per unit basis. It's not through a rezoning. It's just if you're building a single family home or you're doing a subdivision, you already have the zoning, then you're paying a per door fee for sewer, water, roads, and there's separate calculation for each of those capital infrastructural needs in the community. Or if it's, say, a commercial development, it's on a per square meter basis.
Okay, so yeah, you mentioned that the funds, and then you said about to hook up for the sewer. And then I was just wanted clarification on that DCC. So it does not apply. DCCs are not going to have anything to do with the affordable cost charges, correct? They're
That's correct.
separate.
That's right.
Okay.
I was just providing an overview of the tools
Yeah.
that the
Okay.
district has at its disposal to pay for these things. And that isn't one of the tools that you can use for affordable housing.
Yeah, okay, and now I got it now because when I was listening, I was like, okay, thank you.
Okay, I think Councillor St. Pierre had one more
I
question.
was just providing an overview.
Go ahead, Councillor St. Pierre.
I'd actually like to move the motion, as Councillor Bateman suggested. We don't have a motion on the floor. So that's that council adopt the attached housing amenity contribution policy dated June 8th, 2026.
And do I have a seconder for that motion?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, Councillor Bateman second that. Would you like to motivate, please?
Yeah, I would love to. So I do think that we have had a robust discussion. It looks like from the correspondence that's been going on for some time with our development community. And I understand that nobody wants more fees, but the fees are not actually different from what we've had in the past, where it was $3,000. They're actually pretty much consistent. And there's now the opportunity to actually negotiate based on, ideally, a transparent and established framework for lesser fees. So that's actually should be in the best interest of the development community as well. The numbers that we have now are actually comparable or better to other local governments, specifically Langford. And I hope that if we do actually establish ACCs, which I hope we will, that we do adjust these in that iterative process with these yearly and bi-yearly looks at it, because that's what would be expected. And I hope that we can address Councillor Pearson's concerns in that way. I think that this will provide certainty where with changes of staff and with a policy that doesn't actually have specifics, the development committee has not had certainty. And that's been a challenge forever. So I'm glad to see that will finally ideally be dealt with if we go through with this. I appreciate actually basing on the land lift, because as soon as the rezoning is done, if it turns out the numbers don't crunch out right for the developer, they're probably going to sell the property, in which case they will make back their money that they put in, I would assume. I have an additional question, which is probably not the right time to ask. What happens if they don't build any units based on the covenant? But let's not get into that. I am curious about that, but I'll stop right there.
Are you finished motivating? Yeah.
Actually, there was one more thing. I think I would like to also mention in terms of motivation that I'm excited at the idea that this would actually provide us with seed money in terms of doing something maybe like Tofino and having our own housing corporation and actually purchasing land potentially for manufactured home parks, for who knows what, and actually having the district actually get really involved with affordable housing in a more real way as a partner. This is the kind of seed money that would be needed to do that sort of work. And it's also needed for doing any more work in this area at all. Thank you.
Councillor Bateman.
Okay, thank you. As with everything, I'd be quite happy to push this down the road, perhaps even move it on to back to the Land Use and Development Committee for more of a discussion. However, as tonight's conversation has unfolded, I'm in favor of moving ahead with the resolution here. I think it's important to note the pilot period, as you mentioned, 12 months, just like the OCP. We'll have it reviewed at the 1-year anniversary. So we get to see the real world impacts, pro and con of this policy, as with the OCP, within a year. So that seems like good common sense business. I'll secondly note, Sooke does not have a community amenity contribution policy or fund. These fund childcare facilities, parks, green spaces, and public open areas, community and recreation centers, libraries and cultural spaces, public art, and fire or police facility expansion. Now, and we don't have any plan to do so in the immediate future. So this is a significant point, and it does need to be utilized in reference to the lower housing reserve contributions in Langford, Colwood, and Victoria, where in fact, as it's been clearly stated, considerably more, twice the fees. The fees that are in the cash in lieu, excuse my lack of knowledge of the terminology here, but these are consistent with the current rates that we've built up to $3,000. Furthermore, let's see, you know, and a comment, Councillor Haldane, you gave a really compelling verbal argument around the costs. You note $56,000 to start work on just the single lot. Now, in the past, I have requested to the Sooke Builders Association that you provide us with a clean, clear chart that demonstrates your actual costs. So when I see a cumulative financial burden, I need to see a chart in front of me. I'm a visual learner. And I would hope that.
Councillor Bateman, I think that's a bit of.
Have I done? Okay.
I think we're.
So I'm off course.
Yeah, I think.
Okay. I'll sail back. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, other councillors? Councillor Pearson?
Well, I've seen over the years, I've seen everything from negotiating on the fly in council meetings to 3,000 to 1,500 to 1,200 to whatever the wildest numbers that you can imagine. I think the policy is long overdue to be implemented. However, I think the amounts are missing the mark for me personally. I think that we have to. We sometimes we're different in Sooke, and I appreciate that, but I also think that we should get it more in line with what neighboring municipalities do, not because they're doing it, but it levels the playing field out, and I don't want to overstate in that fashion. So I would propose an amendment is to take the single family detached subdivision lot down to 3,000 because that's what we've been paying. This is a 33% increase over that. I would move the condominiums to be $2,000. I hope, am I saying that too fast for our corporate officer? I'm making a motion at this moment.
Making an amendment.
Making an amendment to the motion to adjust these by $1,000 for the single detached subdivision per lot, by condominiums by $1,000 to $2,000, mixed use development to 1,000 by 500, and purpose built rentals leaving it at 1,000. Minute all of them, right?
So staff, I need to see that in front of the screen, the comparison, please. Is that possible? Just a second. I just want to see if staff can put that up, and then we'll get a seconder. Okay.
Get to motivate on the pen.
I think you just did. Fine. I'm trying to find the old one up here. Okay. Do it here. Just to get me a chance to get caught up here. I just wanted to, what I want to do was see the old we're amending from to. Okay, so I got it in front of me now. I just have to go back. So the apartment developments
Same.
same.
Yep.
3,000. Okay. Mixed use,
Oh, condominium apartments, 2,000, sorry.
okay.
So you're-
Oh, okay, okay, all right, so they're going down. And purpose-built rentals remain 1,000.
I'm reading
Okay.
right off urban.
Yeah,
space.
okay. Apartment developments. Okay, does everybody see what the amendment is and then fully understand it? Okay, and now,
I don't.
okay,
You know, in
we have to have
that
clarity
record
first.
here, we have apartment developments, mixed-use developments, townhouse developments, single detached and purpose-built rentals. So I would like to see that language matched in the amended.
Yeah,
motion.
I agree.
That, and I read it right off of.
So condos, do you mean townhouses and apartments or?
Condominiums, apartments, projects with fewer than 100 units.
Yeah, so I'd like to see the old one with the amendment beside it. So,
Right.
I mean, they're all dropping except for one. It's important we see what we're voting on. Bear with us. I think it's important that we get it right. Okay, well, I'll call for a 5-minute health break and then we will hopefully have that up in the screen and we can continue on. So we'll take a 5-minute health break. So that will be whatever it is. 7:31. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Guess who likes it?
Well, it's ideal for one or two. Oh, yeah. This is easy to put together. It's not expensive. If it crashes in a year. Yeah. I can't remember now. I got John Farmer doing it for the club. He's gonna speak on it.
He and I have been working together. That's the valve.
Oh, you got that right, yeah. Yeah. Well, he's also raised being sort of like for us. I don't think he's attended a meeting for 5 years because that's how we keep him on the books. He's a life member. But when I look around the club, there wasn't that many people even knew who he was, you know, in the club portion. So that's why we asked John, because he's got the history. I can speak to it, not as much. Where's St. Pierre? Oh, he's right on. Okay, can I get everybody sitting down again, please? Please find your seat. Sorry, you're still working on it? Okay, I'm going to extend it 2 minutes because that's what staff said. So now that you're all nice and quiet, you can talk again. No, it doesn't matter. They're not ready yet. I gave another 2 minutes. You got 1 minute. It was 10%.
On my school.
Okay, it's. Are we ready to go, staff? Okay. All right, let's get back at it. Thanks very much. So now you have it in front of you, and I believe Councillor Haldane wants to second that motion, the amendment. Is that correct? Do you want to motivate?
Yes, and the reason that I proposed it to be lower is it's in line with what we're currently doing. It's predictable. Developers have asked us since I've been back on council for 4 years to have a predictable. It may be a little bit higher than they like, but we are going to review it in a year. This is consistent with what we're doing, and I think it does what we want. I think that adding costs at the front end does sort of the opposite for affordable housing, because you're making some people pay for affordable housing, and it's the incremental amounts are so it takes so many houses to make a difference. But maybe we should be land banking. Anyway, that's my.
Okay. Councillor Haldane, you motivate?
Yeah, just the one thing. Given that we're gonna do all this stuff anyway, and there's a 750,000 roughly in the fund up to this point. If you want confidence coming from the building community in how we're applying or how we're taking all these things, then we need to fix it to something that's reasonable or real. And Tony made a point there earlier, and come up with a project or something that's legitimate or real. I mean, we lack a ton of seniors housing in this town. Air Manor's been looking and so on, and I don't mean to get off topic. But when it comes down to it, let's say we're gonna partner up and help build and give this to one of the seniors housing outfits. Something who's gonna do something for the people who actually paid taxes and who actually worked in this community for all this time. And rather than it be just the people who are having a tough time. I don't even know how to put it in words, but
Okay.
I think that it should go to people who've contributed to the system. That's all. So
Okay, thank
if
you.
we could make something like that happen and make a project, then I think you would have more appetite for it as well. So,
Any other comments on the amendment, councillors?
no,
Councillor St. Pierre?
I sadly disagree with the amendment. I think that the amounts are not actually consistent because for the longest while, we've been charging about 3,000 per door, and that's what we've been putting out to the development community. So it's not actually consistent. It's significantly less.
Just no, let Councillor St. Pierre speak, please.
I also think that the amount is, as determined in the policy as we have it, is based on basically what's expected to be made if you flip the property, if you sell the property, based on the lift. And we still have the option that happens regularly that people will buy a property, do the rezoning, and then they just sell it. And they're making money on the paperwork. But what that does is it increases the cost for future developers. If someone actually wants to buy that property and then build on it, there's an increase in the cost that's already been built in that they wouldn't have had before. And what we can do is we can take some of that and we can actually put it towards projects that actually work on affordable housing. Instead of that lift going strictly to somebody who's doing paperwork and then trying to flip it for some money, we get some of that. I think that the increasing the amount specifically on single family detached is needed because we need to discourage single family detached in some ways. It costs more for the district and it costs our taxpayers more to pay for that. Single family detached does not pay for itself in the long term for infrastructure. The more single family detached we build without en suites, without more stuff added on, that just increases cost to future taxpayers because they have to pay for the extra infrastructure. And so it makes sense to get something extra because otherwise that cost is going to be passed to our taxpayers. I think that if a project is not going to go forward because of these fees, which are half of what they would be elsewhere, then it's not a viable project and it should not go forward. But I think at that point, we have to look at some bigger problems because that's probably because of the building code. That's probably because of all the other issues that we have in terms of trying to build affordable housing. We need to legalize affordable housing at the provincial and federal level as well, and that's not what we're in charge of. Yeah. They're actually the ones making it really impossible to build cheap. So I'm just going to say that.
Councillor Bateman, do you have anything to say?
Okay. Yeah, I'll support the amendment on various grounds. I was on a call, provincial call today that Ravi Kahlon, the Minister of Jobs and Economic Development, he was again speaking to the affordability crunch and how that's impacting all of us in so many ways. I think interestingly in Mr. Marshall's report today, he does reference the OCP and the key ambitions here include preparing this very policy we have tonight, work with developers to facilitate rental housing, seed funding, and land purchases. So I would hope that in approach A with that negotiation process, that very thing will be front and center in the negotiations. It's also explore tax exemptions and DCC reductions. Here is a reduction on a proposed amount that seems fair. We were going at 3,000 per unit. However, as we all know, coming out of our rough and tumble budget discussions, we need to cut some breaks in this community for our builders, our citizens, and yeah. And I think critically, as we make a decision like this, we also have to begin looking at that community amenity contribution policy. Because as I'll just read one more time, childcare facilities, parks, green spaces, public open areas, etc. We need all that. And someone's got to pay for it.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Now I'll get to comment. I do not support this amendment. I think the staff has made a case. They went away and took all the information that they were asked to do. They consulted with the building association. Just because they consulted doesn't mean they accept what comes through. We have been charging $3,000 a unit for 8 years that I've been here. And I'm happy to see that we have some money in that fund. So sorry, is somebody talking back there? Just keep it down, please. And I like the idea of the predictability. I heard for 8 years here, and that was the number one thing is the builders wanted to know exactly what the fees were. And I don't think they're out of line. And if you save $1,000 on a door, a unit, I doubt very much it gets passed down to the end buyer because it's the sellers will sell it for whatever the market will bear. So I just think it's a little bit of a false economy. I think we do need to get more into affordable housing. And unfortunately, we have two ways to do it. One is development charges and these charges or taxes. And people are saying that they're being taxed too much. So I will not support the amendment. I think that staff has done an excellent job in bringing that report forward. I think it clarifies a lot of things and it was explained in such a manner. So I will not support it. So with that being said, I'm going to call the question on the amendment. All those in favor? All those against? So that amendment passes 3-2. So now we'll go back to the original, the council adopt the attached housing amenity contribution policy dated June 8th, 2026. So I need a motion for that. Oh, already there? Sorry. Okay. We had a seconder, so I'll call that question. All those in favor? All those against? It's me. Please record that. Okay, thank you. We'll go on to other business. What are we doing here now? Bylaws, yeah, sorry, been a long time on that one. So now we're back into the right numbers. Zoning amended bylaw number 942. I think this is just a matter of adopting it. Is that correct? Okay. So someone move. So move. Pearson, St. Pierre. Any discussion to the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Sewer amendment bylaw number 954. Again, this is just for adoption. Have a motion, please. Stoles. Okay, that's St. Pierre and Pearson again. Any discussion to the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor? That's passed. Thank you very much. 10.3 Science Amendment Bylaw 948. Okay, so we have a motion. We have a seconder. That's fine. Okay, with that, would you like to motivate, please?
No.
Okay, well, we'll be the seconder gets to motivate first, so go ahead.
Nope, you can go ahead.
Okay, Councillor Bateman.
Okay, well, this is yeah. It's a complicated, or not, maybe not. I'm curious about section 3.3 of the proposed bylaw amendment. And I would like to make an amendment at this point that the language in the proposed sign amendment bylaw number 948 be revised to state, quote, at any time starting at the beginning of the campaign period. And this would be done through the removal of the prefix pre.
So we have an amendment on the floor. Do we have, it's not on the screen yet, so I'll wait till it's up there and then I'll ask for a seconder.
My apologies for not sending that in advance. Okay.
It's in the section, attachment, right?
It is the actual. It's page 101.
What is it on?
It's on page 102 on the agenda, 3.3.
3.3.
I don't have 3.3.
10.3 is the, on this one, and I got it on both of them.
That's slow moving.
Page 102.
Council Bateman, which attachment?
What's that?
Which attachment?
It's my,
Which attachment is it in?
it's in attachment. I guess the first attachment,
That's what I thought.
right after the staff report.
Attachment 1, bylaw 948/2026, okay.
So that wording, your worship, is coming up on the screen there, and the effect of this amendment would be to amend the revised bylaw, so it would now read, the Traffic and Highways Regulation Bylaw is amended in section 17A to insert the words, at any time starting at the beginning of the campaign period as defined in the Local Elections Campaign Financing Act, between the words highway and provided.
So we have that. Now, do we have a seconder? Okay, Councillor St. Pierre seconds that. Okay, motivate, please.
Okay, so there are, as Elections BC knows, as we heard from our speaker tonight, there is a pre-campaign period, which is the current language in the bylaw, signed bylaw amendment. And the pre-campaign period begins on Monday, July 20th, 2026. I'm requesting in this amendment that signs go up at the start of the campaign period, which begins on Saturday, September 19th. So it has been a long tradition locally for signs to go up at or near the start of the campaign period. That is a common practice. This has been the norm in our elections, as well as via very clear legislation in provincial and federal elections. And of course, this is on public land we're talking about. We're not talking about private land here. As the staff report makes clear, the charter does indicate the rights and freedoms of Canadians to put what they want on their properties, provided they're not blocking our drivers from seeing the road ahead. So this is specific to candidate election signs in the campaign period starting September 19th. I'll just add that as we read in the staff report, this is common practice throughout CRD municipalities, give or take a few local wrinkles. Esquimalt allows signs to go up at the start of the nomination period, which is September 1st, I believe, Mr. Lois, this year.
For your worship, yes, that's correct.
That's right. Colwood, Victoria, Saanich, Langford, Oak Bay all allow them effective September 19th. Colwood has a very robust election sign bylaw that gets to the point where they have maps which show exactly where you're allowed to put your signs up, 12 different stretches of road in Colwood. And perhaps one day we would see that. So yeah, my final motivation point is I don't want to see our town at the height of tourist season and me driving around town seeing all these election signs well before the period in question. So that's what I've got to say. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor St. Pierre.
I just like to thank our member of the public for making her points. I think they were well made. And I think I agree with everything that Councillor Bateman has said. I feel very strongly that in this particular case, it's also, it does give advantage to those who honestly have more money, deeper pockets, and more organization. And one of the things I do like about local government is that anyone can step up, and if you knock on enough doors and talk to enough people and enough conviction and passion and good ideas, and you convince enough people, you can actually get elected. And having this much influence so early puts anyone who comes in later at a disadvantage. And I don't think that's what we want. So I appreciate the intent.
Anybody else? Councillors? Councillor Haldane?
Sure. I think that I'm fine with the amendment here. I think being organized is different than affordability. I mean, when you come down to it here, this is just about a bunch of people passionate about a community. And whether you own property or not, you still have, everybody has family, friends, and supporters. They can put stuff in their yards off the highway, which allows for it. And the other thing you want to do is you want to encourage younger people they get involved. And from what I understand, that's what's happening in this case here. And if somebody's passionate about wanting to be part of council or whatever, and they're enthusiastic, and their mums and dads and grandmothers are all involved with them and want to push them forward, then they have the right to do that on private property. The highway stuff, I'm fine with. We'll wait till the 19th and we'll go from there. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councillor Pearson?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the bylaw. I have a problem with a couple of the comments that came from my left, but because in this day and age, people have the right in Canada to take advantage of the rules that are out there, and they have the right, the freedom of expression to organize and do what they want. I know now we're crossing into this campaign thing, and that's, we don't want to do that at the council table. We want to have people who have ingenuity, people who are thinking outside the box. Because it's outside the box doesn't mean it's a contravention of rules, and it gets implied that people are doing something or have more money or whatever it is. We don't want to get into that.
Are we talking about the amendment, Councillor Pearson? It's
Yeah.
the amendment we're talking to.
Well,
The
no.
amendment is just on the highways, I believe.
Well, it's to delete the word pre.
Yeah.
Elections BC covers all the rules and regulations that are out there. We have our own, if we want to have our own signed bylaw, fair enough, that's that. But don't take away people's rights and freedoms in our country. We should never succumb to that. Anyway.
Okay. Just no comments, please. All right, anybody else to speak with? Okay, I'll speak to it. I'm in favor of the amendment. I think it's a small thing, and I think it's adds some clarity, and so I'll be supporting the amendment. So I'm going to call the question on the amendment by Councillor Bateman. All those in favor? All those against? So that's Councillor Pearson against. Okay, then I guess that the council give 3 readings to the Signs Amendment bylaw. So I'm not sure how to proceed with that. So our corporate officer.
Your worship, this has been moved and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre and Councillor Haldane. So now it would simply be that to give 3 readings as amended.
Okay.
That is currently on the table.
All right, so we'll call that question. All those in favor? Sorry,
Comment.
go ahead, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Comments here.
Yeah.
Because interesting points have been raised tonight during public comment around these amendments. So I'd just like to speak to a few of them. The restrictions on the use of district color palette, as the report clearly states, the proposed restriction is on the brand as a whole, which collectively as a combination of specifically defined colors represents the branding of the district. So that yellow could still be used by anyone for any purpose. So that's a clear point. I think good points around just banning the use of the district logo, but I think this does make that point clear. Require removal of signs within 24 hours. That is the Ministry of Transportation and Transit standard, and I think it's a good thing for candidates, both successful and not so, to shake it off and get out there and get those signs down so we can begin another term. And the prohibition of signs on municipal property parks. Now, as our report states, Section 52 of the Parks Bylaw does very clearly have a prohibition on advertising or whatever within our park system. So that bylaw does stand during regular and election silly season as well. So there we are.
Thank you, Councillor Bateman. Any other comments? I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any against? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Then on to new business. There's no notices of motion. Motions of which notices have been given, and that's Councillor St. Pierre, improving audio-visual experience of council meetings.
Actually, I guess I could start by putting it out there. We have our staff and chair regularly reminding us to hit the speakers. I believe there's actually technology out there that would pick up our voices automatically, making sure that anybody that's out there attending electronically can actually catch everything in, which that's not happening right now. So I don't think it's a very big thing, but I don't know that. And I'd like to know from staff whether or not we can actually make some improvements. I think it would just save a lot of hassle. I think that, the time that our staff is spending reminding us to turn the mics on could be better spent doing almost anything. That's about it.
I will let staff comment on it, but I've also looked into this beforehand, and the word I had from the CAO is there wasn't enough staff capacity in the time left in this council to actually action it. So I'm not sure where you want to put it now, if you want to carry on with making the motion, but nothing is going to happen of it because there's just not enough time.
Well, then perhaps for the next council, they can actually avoid this kind of nonsense.
Did you want to carry through with your motion then?
Yeah,
Or
if it
just
fails, it
table
fails,
it,
but I
just
think in
let
fact,
them deal with it.
let them deal with it. I think staff can put it in the queue, and if it doesn't get done this term,
Okay.
then ideally at some point we get some improvements.
All right. Do we have a seconder then?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion to the motion? Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, it needs to be fixed, but I mean, I think we've got other priorities and I guess, I read Councillor McMath's note to us. And
Yeah.
it, I don't know if she's opposed. She just doesn't want to spend any effort and time on it. So
Yeah. So there we go.
make sure that her message is loud and clear.
Go ahead, Councillor Bateman.
In the queue, that is very critical. There's a big queue, there's a long to-do list. So this joins it. And it just will be for consideration by the next council.
Anybody else? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those against? Okay, no one voted against, so that passes. Okay, 14, correspondence requiring action. 14.1, provincial response to 2025 resolutions, Union BC, brought by me. I talked to the CEO and that was supposed to be removed because we dealt with it earlier today. So I just like that taken out. Next is the annual report, Victoria Family Court and Justice Committee, requested by Councillor Bateman.
Yeah,
You have
so
the floor.
I'll move receipt for information, please.
We have a motion for second by Councillor Pearson. Any discussion?
Well, yeah, I'll just make a few comments here. This is one of my formal council appointments. I've been doing it for the last 8 years. Many Sooke councillors over time have done this. Perhaps Mayor Evans even was a member of the Victoria. She was indeed. So this is a pretty remarkable little organization that does what it does. It's a CRD designated commission. And as I did last year, I wanted to pull this report just so that you know the kind of work that's going on. The mandate of the organization is to educate and advocate on the subject of keeping young people out of the youth justice system. And again, this is those kind of return on investment in terms of, So we do distribution of grants to youth serving nonprofits, advocacy letters on behalf of frontline service providers. We do panel discussions. We do continued advocacy for one of those units of the Greater Victoria Integrated Police Units, the Mobile Youth Services Team. Now, I'll just give you the update on it. The federal funding, I'm sure you're all aware of MIST by now, given the amount of times I've mentioned it. The federal funding for its counselor member runs out on September 30th. So our next meeting on June 25th, we're inviting the Minister of Children and Family Development from BC and all our local members of Parliament to attend and hear directly from the impacted MIST team members. They handle more than 250 active case files involving children and teenagers caught up in gang recruitment, homelessness, sexual exploitation, domestic and street violence, mental health, drug addiction, and involvement with predators, bullies, and the worst of the worst in our communities. So this group is essential and it needs to be funded. And that's, I'm speaking on behalf of our group. We are quite passionate about this and we're beyond mystified as to how Ottawa could not continue to fund such a critical service. So I'm off my soapbox and that's that.
Okay. So that just, we don't need a motion for that.
That was for.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, the next one's 14.3, local government action program funding, Mayor Saanich, and that's Councillor Bateman again.
Yeah. So this one, there is some confusion over whether or not the local government climate action program is being defunded or not. So as much as Mayor Murdoch and the Saanich Council believes it is, there is perhaps some other evidence that it's not. So I think rather than go into great detail, but I do want to make a couple of points, of course. This program was launched in May 2022, the LG cap. It delivers about $140,000 annually to the district. And it's for climate action initiatives within a community. Now, it has early on, it helped fund the Friends of Sooke Park Society and its work and other local grassroots community organizations. In our current budget, a grand total of $285,000 from this plan will go into rainwater storm management infrastructure in multiple locations around Sooke and also for storm repairs on Brownsea Boulevard. So just so we can address this whole matter of climate action being something out there, it is in fact directly on our doorsteps in every new sinkhole that appears in the community. So this fund is, we'll find out whether it's going to vanish or not, but it's an example of the province providing us with some funding, just as it did with the Growing BC Fund, which is close to exhausted as well. So we need more funding out of Victoria, just like Ottawa.
Any other councils want to discuss that? Nobody lining up. Yeah, I don't need a motion for that one either, do I? Okay, sounds good. Okay, 14.4, All Sooke Family Day Picnic Sooke Community Association. At this time, I must ask Councillor Haldane if he's previously declared a conflict of interest. So I have to ask again.
If we're going to be voting on any motion, then I'll leave. But if it's just request for information, then
yeah, I have a feeling it will be, but
okay. If you think that, then
but anyways,
it says request for discussion by Mayor Tate.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mayor Tate's away, but she did ask me to carry it forward.
Okay.
And so I'm willing to. But basically, the Sooke Community Association is asking for a $5,000 sponsorship for, I guess it's All Sooke Day Family Picnic. And in the past, last year we did for the amount, I believe it was $5,000. It's changed a little bit this year in that our new policy only allows up to $1,000 a request for sponsorships, but council does have the opportunity, if it so wishes, to take money from our contingency fund, and our fund right now sits at $22,857. So if somebody wishes to,
I'll recuse then, and
okay,
if you guys are going to vote on something.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
appreciate it.
that's about it. So I'm looking for a motion.
Yeah.
So you're gonna go, yeah, sure. I make a motion that we sponsor the Sooke Community Association for the All Sooke Day event in the amount of $5,000 to come from our contingency fund.
Just point of clarification, is all of it coming to contingency or 1,000 from the sponsorship?
Sorry, combination of the maximum from our sponsorship.
1,000 and 4,000 from
4,000.
contingency. Okay,
Sure.
staff record that, okay? And was there a seconder? Sorry, so Councillor St. Pierre, would you like to motivate or?
No,
Pretty
it's
straightforward.
no.
How about you, Councillor St. Pierre? Okay, so we have a motion and you speak to the motion. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll speak to the motion. I did make a request to Ms. Berger to provide us with some details on how that $5,000 is spent. Is it strictly for the fish? Is it for honorariums for those involved in the project? How does that get spent? And last year at this time, I had no second thoughts about giving $5,000 to an event as significant to this community as the return of All Sooke Day. And we have supported it for the last 3 years. I think we're up to the third return.
If I might, Councillor Bateman.
I will just make my point.
Okay.
And my point is that here's one example of where the district in its new era of austerity And I'm sure the next council will be wanting to look at every single dollar. So when something like this comes through, we need to see budgets, we need to see details. I know it's a vitally important event for Sooke. And at the same time, we need to create a new era of just looking at every dollar. So I will vote in favor of this nonetheless.
Okay, just for point of clarification, it did say in the letter, we were respectfully requesting sponsorship in the amount of $5,000, which consists of the district's generous support in previous years. These funds directly assist with event operations, family activities, and entertainment, site servicing, and ensuring the event remains accessible and affordable for all. So it's not just for the meal, it's for the whole event.
Okay. That's good to see. And
So-
thank you for pointing that out. At the same time, I will stand by my request that we see budget.
Yeah,
in the
that's not a
future.
problem. I just wanted to make that clarification because it was in the letter. So Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, and I think in all cases, we do want to see budgets and things like that. But if you recall our granting exercise, the community association asked for substantially a lot more money to keep that amazing organization going. We get tenfold of what we're providing from the tax dollars back in benefits, soccer fields, kids playing, baseball diamonds, all of those things. So this is a small ask, and we cut out a big ask earlier to this amazing organization. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Councillor St. Pierre, then I'm going to call the question.
Just very quickly, I'm sure staff is taking note of this, but this is the kind of larger event that we've been supporting for a long time and should support. So as we move forward with things like the MRDT, I'm hoping that we can look at different mechanisms that can actually make sure that the money's available for these events that we need.
Okay, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Okay, and that's 4 of us. That's unanimous. Okay, Councillor Haldane can come back in. Items removed from consent agenda. No, they go to the next meeting. Council verbal reports. Who wants to go first? Okay, we'll start over there, Councillor St. Pierre, and then I'll come around.
So first of all, I'd like to thank council for moving this forward as a resolution. And that happened, I was inspired by this, by the work that's been done in the UK. In the UK, you can actually have seafoods reduced in price massively. Right before they expire, they put yellow stickers on them. Everybody fills their carts up. Carts that away. It doesn't go to the landfills. It goes to people. Instead of having quite as many food banks, I would imagine, they just make sure food doesn't go to landfills. And people actually shop in the same places. So there's an equity piece. There's a way of distributing food so it doesn't go in the garbage. What it requires at this point, because we don't have the same habits in the UK, is probably some work and legislation at the provincial level. And I think that would help our food banks and everyone that is having a tough time. So that was the inspiration. That's where it came from. And if you want more information, maybe later.
Thank you. And Councillor Pearson.
Yeah, only one kind of small report is that on Saturday, I was able to attend the Timuc Treaty presentation at Edward Milne Community School. Really positive event. Lots of information around the treaty progress so far, identification of treaty lands within our municipality. No surprises to us, I don't think, with the exception of maybe the lands that are on East Sooke Road. And that, but no, it was a great event, and I got to meet first face to face with all of the local nations.
More clarity.
Yeah, ask each one of them, basically for what they wanted me to take away from the meeting. It was extremely a positive event. Myself and 2 other councillors were there. So good. That's it for me.
Councillor Bateman.
Okay, yeah, I was at that open house. I attended the CRD Parks Committee, Transportation Committee, the CRD Arts Commission, the CRD Governance Committee, and the CPark Commission meetings over the last 2 weeks. I was at the opening of the Sooke Skate Park, which I trust Acting Mayor Beddoes will speak to. Planning meetings for the Sooke Region Health Summit on September 26th. I was invited to meet with the Sooke for Palestine group that you will have read about in the Sooke News Mirror. And I have recommended they book a delegation presentation so as to share their views and their take on community reaction to the genocide in Gaza at a future council meeting. In the meantime, they have given me a set of pamphlets that I will leave with our corporate officers, so please expect those in your mailboxes in the days ahead. And finally, the Municipal Leadership Advisory Team, which is in support of the Village Initiative, which is the group of the umbrella group for 70 youth-serving organizations in Sooke and the West Shore. We have contributed 14,000 per year for 2 years to fund their regional coordinator. So Sooke, Langford, Colwood, School District 62, and a citizens group in Machosen have come together to fund this position. And Miranda Levert is her name, and she will be making a presentation to us at some point over the course of the next 6 months or so. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Haldane, in your word?
Yes, as Councillor Pearson said, I went to the Tiamat Treaty negotiations. Talked about a lot of stuff. The one big thing that we talked about was they're planning on giving away the Sooke Regional Park up at the north end of I guess our Sea to Sky, so Shields Lake area. But they said unless the Sooke Nation asks for access to it through a road system, then they'll leave it the way it is. But there may be some negotiation coming in the future to be able to drive up there again, like we could have for a lot of years prior to the Sea to Sky park setup. And really not for huge traffic issues, but for the fact that if you want to take a boat or a kayak or a canoe up there, and talked in quite length with this younger guy, and he loves the idea, but he said it's not going to be up to anybody except for the First Nations themselves, whether they think that that's a priority or not. So hopefully something like that happens and we can access those again.
Very good. Okay, for me, I did, as you probably saw, that we opened officially the Sooke Skate Park. Well attended. The kids are having a marvelous time there. They've done a bang up job on budget, a little late. We got caught with some rain, so it was 2 months late. But the kids have been using it for the past month, and they're delighted with it. And I was just shudder every time I see them go up some of those runs. How they don't break bones is beyond me, but the kids are pretty resilient. I'm not getting on any skateboards soon. Anyways, it was nice to see that amenity, and thanks back to the Sooke Rotary, who initiated that park back in '97, I believe it was, or somewhere around there. And unfortunately, it just wore out. Also, CPAC meeting, we had a nice robust discussion there. Changing demographics slightly, but basically things are really going well at CPAC, as you probably all know. The last thing, well, 2 things actually. Then I was on a webinar for CPAC and about planning for the future, and it became pretty evident that financing new ice rinks and these facilities is almost beyond the capabilities of a municipality to pay. It's just getting so expensive with the new regulations, and that it was very evident that other levels of government have to be involved when we go for these big projects. And the last is I had the pleasure of going to UVic yesterday. It was yesterday. Or was it Saturday? Anyways, I went to UVic at the grads, 2026 grads. Marvelous ceremony. It was the largest class EMCS. I think there were like 173 of them or something there. Wow. Yeah, and it went on and on and on, but it was marvelous to see. I've been to a few of them, and the number of kids, how energetic they are about the future, and a lot of them going to post-secondary, and lots of bursaries and things were given out. So it was a lot of fun, and that's it for me. Anything else? I was there too. Yeah, I had a granddaughter there, so I was there for 2 full. I got to sit in the front row, so it was great. If there's nothing else, then I'll have a motion to adjourn. Okay, Pearson and St. Pierre. Thank you, everybody. Oh, we all voted for that, right? Okay. Yes.